Hey everybody, it's Kate, the West Coast Paper Crafter. It is Monday, July 8th, and you are joining me for a Make It Monday tonight. And I am going to show you a really fun project using the Under the Moon stamp set and sponge daubers. So super easy, really pretty card that's actually really handy for masculine cards and just if you want to make a scenic card. So I'm going to flip my camera around and we will get started. All right, I'm just going to adjust my camera so you can see my workspace. And then I'll get everything out of the way so we can start this project. Okay. So everything is cut and ready to go. Our card base, I've used Misty Moonlight, and this is 8.5 by 5.5, and I've scored it at 4 1/4 on the 8.5 inch side. I've got a Boho Blue layer. I used a Perennial Postage die to cut this out, but if you don't have that die, you can just cut this layer to 3 7/8 by 5. I've got a blueberry bushel layer. This I've also cut out with a Perennial Postage die, but if you don't have the dies, then just cut this layer to 3 1/4 by 4.5. For the front of the card, I've got basic white. This is 3 by 4 1/4. And for the inside, I've got just another piece of basic white that is 5 1/4 by 4. So we'll put aside these layers for now and we'll get started with the card. Well, the card front, I should say. So with the Under the Moon stamp set, I'm going to use this stamp here. Reminds me of a sunset. And then I'll also use the water stamp and the sailboat. So how we're going to use the sponge daubers is to layer on a darker color to our stamp. So I'm going to take my lighter color first. I'm using Daffodil Delight. And I am going to just ink up the whole stamp. And then I'm going to take my darker color, which is Pumpkin Pie, and I'm going to use the sponge dauber. And I'm just going to tap color onto the bottom half of this stamp. I'm just lightly tapping in some color, so this bottom layer is going to be darker than the top. And it doesn't need too much. If you use contrasting colors, you'll easily be able to tell when you have enough color on. Hey Barb, thanks for tuning in. So what we need to remember, I've inked it up in Daffodil Delight and then I've just sponged on the darker color. But if I go ahead and stamp this directly on my paper, that ink might be dried out, at least the Daffodil Delight. So what I'm going to do is huff on the stamp set. You're not going to see me do it, but basically what that means is I'm just going to breathe heavy on my stamp to kind of re-moisten that ink. So you're not going to see me do it because all you would see would be the back of my head, but you'll probably hear me huff. So I'm just breathing on it, and I'm going to stamp this on the right upper corner of my paper, and I'm going to apply some even pressure. And there you go. So you can see that the darker color and the lighter color are separated, and that's how easy it is. So you can do that. Like sometimes I've like tapped half my stamp on an ink pad and then the other half on a lighter color, but I don't love doing that because I seem to kind of cross-contaminate my ink pads and I get color where I don't want it to be. So that's why the little sponge daubers are so easy for this. So I'm going to put aside my orange sponge because I don't want to accidentally use that. And now I'm going to take a light shade of blue for the water, which is Pool Party. Hey Cindy, I see you. Thanks for tuning in. And Natalie, thanks for tuning in from Kelowna. Cindy, I'm sorry you have no sound. Is anyone else having trouble with sound? So I'm inking up in Pool Party. I'm gonna close this because I get ink everywhere. And now I've got a darker shade of blue, which I'm using Balmy Blue. All right, I've got another little sponge dauber, and I'm gonna tap on the darker shade of blue, just on the bottom third of this water stamp. Okay. Now again, I'm going to re-moisten that ink just by huffing on it. That must sound really funny in the mic. Sorry guys. Okay, and then I'm lining it up underneath my sunset. I'm just gonna stand up so I can get this lined up properly. Oops, I think I got it. It's hard to tell when I can't get my head directly over my stamp. So I'm just applying some even pressure. And there we go. So I've got darker blue here and a lighter blue right underneath the sunset. So now what I want to do is add, oops, that was loud, a little bit more color to this basic white. So I'm going to go ahead and blend some Pool Party along the bottom. And then I'll do the same in a lighter shade of orange on the top part of this card. So if you haven't seen me blend before, I like to just blend my color off on the lid of my stamp set. That way I'm not wasting any ink. I used to do it on an extra sheet of paper, but I find that the lid of our ink pads works just as well. All right, so I've just kind of blended over some Pool Party just to pull that color out a little bit more. And then I'm gonna do the same for the top of the card, but I'm gonna do that in Peach Pie. Hey Linda, I see you. Thanks for tuning in. Marianne, hello. I'm glad you got the video back. All right, oops, I need my lid. So this is just Peach Pie, which is lighter than the Pumpkin Pie. I'm gonna blend off that color on the lid, and then I'm just going to add a real light shade to this card front. I think that's good. I don't need too much ink. This project has got a lot of different ink pads. I've got 6. I usually don't use that many ink pads. So now I'm going to use the Blueberry Bushel, and I'm going to stamp a sailboat right about there. And before I put that stamp away, I'm going to add a sailboat also to the inside of the card. And then I think I'm going to add, I'll see if I have enough ink on my blending brush, but I want to shade a little bit of blue underneath my boat for the inside of the card. Oh, it's really faint. I think I might need a little bit more ink. All right. Oh, thanks, Carolyn. Thanks for tuning in. I keep forgetting to open up that lid. All right, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of blue behind the boat. And then if I hopefully got some more Peach Pie on this one too, and I'll just blend that. So this is really subtle. You might not see that subtle color from my camera view, but it is very faint, and I'm all right with that. That's what I wanted. So now I'm going to stamp a sentiment. I'm just gonna stamp Happy Birthday. This sentiment, oops, sorry, that was loud, is from the Unbounded Love stamp set. And this is just chock full of all sorts of different sentiments. So far, I've only used the Happy Birthday one, but there's lots to pick from. So I'm just going to use the Blueberry Bushel. And what's nice about the Blueberry Bushel, it's the darkest color, so it's going to stand out. All right, I gotta close this up because I guarantee you I'm gonna get ink everywhere if I don't. All right, I'm gonna get my 6 ink pads out of the way. And now all we need to do is put this card together. So I'm going to layer this basic white, and again, this is 3 by 4 1/4. I'm layering this on Blueberry Bushel. If you have the Perennial Postage dies, I use the 2nd largest die to cut that out. And if you don't have the die, again, that measurement is just 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. All right, I'm just gonna layer this on, and then I'm gonna add some linen thread. What I like about the Perennial Postage dies is that it's got these little notches, which makes it really easy when you want to add some linen thread to your card front. It just holds that thread in place. I'm gonna use a little bit of tear and tape. And I'm gonna probably wrap this around maybe 3 times. So you don't have to use tear and tape. You can just wrap this around as many times as you want and tie a bow, but I find that the tear and tape, just adding the linen thread with a little bit of tear and tape, like so. I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to cheat, and I'm just going to tie a bow from the front of the card instead of using this one long piece of linen thread. I find it's a little bit easier that way, and I can keep my bow nice and tight, and then my thread doesn't get loose, if you know what I mean. So I'm just adding an extra piece of tear and tape because I don't want that to come off. And then all I'm going to do is thread another piece of linen thread underneath that, underneath all these pieces, and then I'm just going to tie a bow that way. Linen thread, it's pretty easy to tie your bow because once you tie that first knot, it stays really tight and it doesn't slip on you. And if you don't like tying a bow, it looks really nice just as a knot as well. So whatever you want to do. So I like my loops to be a little bit smaller, so I'm just going to put I'm going to hold my thumb on the knot, and then I'm going to pull the opposite thread, and that way it keeps my knot from getting too loose. And sometimes I have to kind of finagle my bow just the way I want it, which this is one of those times. It's not behaving. All right, there we go. Now, if I don't like it, I can always untie it and just leave it as a knot. All right, so now I'm going to just add this to my Boho Blue layer. One of 2 ways. You can glue it directly to this layer, or if you like some dimensionals, you can pop it up. I think I'm going to pop it up because I've got a bunch of dimensionals to use up. I like to use my edge pieces. I don't like to waste any dimensionals because I go through so many. All right, I do use a lot of dimensionals, bear with me. I don't like it when my card layers sag, so I tend to be pretty heavy on the dimensionals, and that's probably why I use as much as I can, because I go through so many. I don't know what the temperature is like where you guys are at, but it is cooking hot in Isuk. Holy smokes, it's so hot. I am sweating. I hope we get some cooler days coming up pretty quick because I don't love super hot, and it feels like it's been super hot. All right, now I'm just gonna layer this onto my Boho Blue layer. Oops. Perfect. And then I'm just gonna glue it right to the front of the card. So the one plus side of having really warm weather is that my glue behaves beautifully. So I guess there's a plus. Okay, so I'm just layering this on. I'm going to give it a second for that glue to get tacky. And then the next thing I need to do is just glue that inside piece into place. And this card is done. So it doesn't take too long to put this together if you have a stamp set similar to Under the Moon, or if you have Under the Moon. It's really pretty, and you can do the water and the moon and the sunset in all kinds of colors, whatever you want to work with. I think the next time I use this, I'll do like a nighttime scene with some grays and darker blues. Oh, it is smoking hot in Cowichan, Marianne? Yeah, I bet it is. I bet it is. Oh, Janice, you and I use a lot of dimensionals, I take it then, because yeah, nobody likes the sag. Oh, thanks, Cindy. Thank you, Linda. I appreciate that kind comment. Oh, thanks, Aileen. I hope I'm saying your name right, Aileen. Thank you. That's a lovely comment. All right, so now I've just glued this down. One thing I tend to do when I do landscape cards is I will forget what direction my card is, and I'll end up stamping my inside piece like in the corner. So I try to remember when I'm doing landscape that I need to stamp landscape instead of portrait. So that's something that I commonly make mistakes on, but that is it. Here is our card for the tonight, using these sponge daubers just to add 2 different colors onto your stamp set without wrecking your ink pad. So I hope you guys give this a try. If you don't have sponge daubers, you can try this technique with a blending brush. I'm sure that would work just as well, especially the little blending brushes, because they're just so much smaller. And you can also, you can do 2 different colors just by tapping on your stamp set as well, but you just want to be careful so you don't get dark ink into your light ink. So that is my tip for today. Hi Helen, I see you. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Barb. All right, so before I let you go, just a reminder, July 28th, yes, July 28th is the last Sunday of the month, and I will be doing a free online card class with the Happiest Day stamp set. So this is for anybody, no matter where you live. You just tune in on my Facebook page and you can craft along, or you can catch a replay and craft at your convenience. So we'll be making 3 cards using this stamp set. I haven't designed them yet, otherwise I would give you a sneak peek. So that's coming at the end of the month. Just on the Facebook page, 10 a.m., I will drop a link in the comments for the Facebook event if you would like to join. And about a week before the class, I'm going to post my supply list and measurements for the cards that I'll be making that day. If you don't have this stamp set, use whatever you have in your stash. And whatever I post in my supply list, if you don't have the colors of paper I'm using or the designer series paper, again, substitute for whatever you have. This card, I think we did this last week. I can't remember, my mind is failing me, but I'll be using bright colors because the stamp set just deserves bright colors. It just feels like summer, right? It's really happy. So that is a free class coming. If you are in Canada and you are my customer, you might get those card kits from me for free. If you spend $50 in my online store, that's my little thank you for the month. So just a reminder for my customers, if you do shop with me this month, you could get those card kits either mailed to your door or delivered, depending how far away you live from me. And then lastly, These are the cards for the Sketched Butterfly online class for July. Just give you a little quick sneak peek. Now this class is closing on the weekend. I will also drop the link for that class in the comments. That's not a free class, and right now it's just for Canadian residents because it's product based. But after this weekend, this class will be posted for tutorial only, and that will come with a printable PDF for the 4 projects with all the measurements and the supplies I used, plus links to the video tutorials. So if you're a demonstrator, I honestly, if you're a demonstrator and you want the tutorials, please go ahead and use them for any of your classes because I want to share. So this is a class for customers, crafters, and demonstrators that are looking for ideas for their own classes as well. So reach out if you have any questions. I'm going to flip my camera around. And thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I hope I didn't miss any comments. If I did, I'll go through all the comments and I'll reply. I try to keep up with them, but sometimes my computer lags. So again, thanks for tuning in. I'm hot and sweaty. It is hot in East everybody have a great night. If you catch me on replay, thanks for tuning in. Say hello, tell me where you're from. And if you try this card technique, post your pictures in the comments. I love to see what you make. And you don't need to have a scenic type of card stamp to use this technique. You can do it with any stamp that you have. It's very versatile. Anyway, thanks again for tuning in, and I will see everybody next Monday night.